These are hijab-less women rebelling in Iran. Here we have two women dancing in Iran without a head covering on in protest of the Islamic regime. And then we have this woman rebelliously posing next to a sign that basically says to wear a hijab. And then we also have two girls removing their head coverings to send a message. All the meanwhile, in London, we have women screaming in favor of Iran. Would you please make sure that you are subscribed to my channel as we find out what it is like to be a hijabless woman in Iran or in London for that matter. Would you check out what this woman in Iran is doing with her hijab? The fact that this crowd is cheering for her shows that there are people who support her not needing to wear a hijab. So that is a video that is being resurfaced recently from 2022 when this woman, Masha Amini, was arrested in Iran for not wearing a hijab, and then she apparently died of a heart attack at the police station. And so very mysterious death, it sounds like. And here is another example, a woman who was 16 years old. Her name, Armida Grarawand, was captured by the Iranian police, and they also did horrendous things to that poor woman. This woman's name is Roya Hishmati, and she also got in some very extreme trouble for not wearing a hijab, and you can imagine that they were not very nice to her. Strangely enough, the first clip actually comes from Germany, and here we have what is apparently a German woman who is dressed for the hot weather and is confronted by some Muslim women for the way that she is dressed.
Von wem ist das die Mama? Von wem ist das die Mama?
And so later on in this video, some men actually show up and begin threatening her. I don't know why I have the feeling that that was the very least that that guy would have done. I feel like he is capable of doing a whole lot worse than chest butting somebody down to the floor. And that's crazy that that happens in Germany. Imagine being the only one hijabless in Iran. This next post states that a lot of these women are forced to wear hijab because as soon as they do leave the country, they take them off. And here are some examples. What's wild is the fact that she goes from looking incredibly sad to having a huge smile on her face and not being oppressed, because there's a difference between being conservative and people being demeaning to you. And the fact that they're not allowed to show their head is absolutely wild to me. In the comments of this post, there seems to be some gray area of what it means to be in support of Iran and if that is different of being in support of the Islamic regime, because people are confused why these women in London would be so passionate for Iran despite the treatment that women there receive. Let's hear what this German girl has to say about all of this.
Sagt zu ihm, sieht gefährlich aus, während durch die Innenstadt läuft, eine
Wohnung.
Sieht gefährlich aus, ja. Nein, sieht nicht gefährlich aus. Das Problem liegt bei Ihnen.
Dann wär's seine Zweitfrau, wenn nicht gefährlich aussieht. Mach, was du willst.
Hat ordentliche Klamotten. Wo sieht der gefährlich aus?
Okay, so I have absolutely no idea what she is saying, but I'm just going to trust the translation here. Apparently, she says, I am sick of racism. Muslim men are not violent. I feel safer next to this Muslim man than I do with any racist German man. This just makes me think, do they have the same exact script and they just pass it throughout the entire world? Because it sounds like what some liberal Americans were saying. They would say that, oh, white men, they're so dangerous and they're the actually violent ones. I wouldn't be so sure about that. I mean, we saw that German lady get pushed around. Perhaps in Germany, people also get some type of social credit or recognition to virtue signal and try to be on the right side of history or whatever. But here we have a woman who is going to bravely speak out about some of the Pakistani men in the UK. And by the way, in Pakistan, 96% of them are Muslim.
What really strikes me as a problem is the fact that not only can we just say that the majority of the perpetrators who are engaging in this are like either Pakistanis or British Pakistanis, so even, you know, ones that are essentially here for a long enough time to get the citizenship, and you'd hope they would have integrated and assimilated more, even they're involved. They won't snitch on each other if something as bad as the, you know, systematic of white British girls is happening. They still wouldn't tell on their neighbor's uncle or their cousin's dad, or, you know, whoever's perpetrating this. It is a serious problem within that demographic, and in the UK we've been so scared to acknowledge that, just out of fear of, you know, community relations and community cohesion.
It is so frustrating how they have censored our language so much that it's almost like you're not even allowed to be descriptive of a person in describing what race they look like or where they are moving and how other people are migrating. It's like, oh no, just don't talk about it. Love, peace, people can do whatever they want. But these are important conversations, and I applaud this woman for speaking out about what's going on, because it's one thing for these men to act this way in their countries where they have their beliefs, but it's another thing for them to be so entitled to migrate in the masses to other countries and act the same exact way. We have to be a bit careful about what we say here on YouTube, but let's just say that the Islamic regime does not seem like the biggest fans of the United States or our culture. Let me get this right. So women in London and Germany are all in support of the Islamic regime in some ways, but yet we have Iranians who have become refugees in the Netherlands in support of Israel? That is just wild to know that there are Iranians who in this post say none of them are masked, none of them are wearing hijabs, and they are supporting Israel. That really says a lot. And it is important to note that Grok replied to a comment saying that this is from the year 2018. My most basic elementary understanding of what is going on is that Iran wants nuclear weapons, and they say, oh, we just want to have them. And Israel is like, heck no. And so is the US. The world's most dangerous regime must never obtain the world's most dangerous weapon. And just like that, people are not talking as much about Palestine, right? Or are they still talking about Palestine? How does that tie into everything? Over there in Israel, they have a sign on the highway that says, Mr. President, finish the job. I love that people in Israel recognize Trump as a president, yet people in the US are like, he's a king, or he's not my president. This is an AI example of Zara Emali, who was also arrested and what they call vanished because she wasn't wearing a hijab. It is unbelievable that they say that she vanished into the prison system and nobody has heard from her again, simply because she showed her hair, she showed her head. This video perhaps could give us a good idea of what happens when a woman is not wearing a hijab. It looks like this is the woman in question, and she already does have some form of head covering on, and they just push her into a van. Here we have a woman named Santa on X who posted this picture with the caption, F hijab and Sharia law all together. This post says that this is what Europe is going to look like in 2026, and I can see that just because of the really high birth rates and the way that they are allowing to migrate all throughout Europe, and the fact that many European women seem to be in support of Muslim men or Iran that kind of stuff. I'm doing the best I can in trying to understand this stuff all the way from over here in the great United States of America. I mean, this beach definitely didn't care about sounding nice at all. They refused a woman entry because she was wearing a hijab.
On est en réservé, hein, on est venu à la période bambou et en fait on nous refuse parce que on porte le hijab. Donc on est refusé à la période bambou alors que je suis déjà une cliente habituelle, je viens souvent. Et là donc on est refusé parce qu'on porte le voile, donc à côté de Montpellier.
I think it gets complicated when it becomes like a very personal belief and they might believe that they're doing something really bad by removing it. It's just like, it's too promiscuous. I love how people are pointing out this hilarious detail that I never noticed in Iman Khalif, who recently, by the way, they confirmed that he is a dude. We all knew that, and he doesn't wear a hijab. Why is that? Why is that? Why didn't we talk about this earlier? Yeah, it's obvious that he's a man. This is some very shocking footage of what used to be Iran, and it makes me wonder what on earth happened and how do we prevent it from happening in other places? Would you please make sure that you are subscribed and join me every Friday for live Q&As on my Patreon. The link is in the description. See you guys next time. Bye!